commercial place type designation for this property in the comprehensive plan. It meets the criteria for partially related zones by being aligned with the commercial intent of the place type and compatible with the CA zoning around this node. Staff are recommending approval of the rezoning because it is consistent with the future land use vision per the comprehensive plan. CN zoning is supported by changing conditions, such as the Farm South Market that opened a couple years ago and recent clearing for development in the CA zone portion of this lot to the south. It's also worth noting that the subject parcel doesn't meet the 1 acre minimum lot size intent of the existing agricultural zone. While there are going to be access and stream buffer issues on this site, the CN zone is intended for a small-scale shop that aligns with the site constraints as well as the development potential at this intersection. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Jesse. We will move on to your next one, number 37.
This is 4L26RZ. This case is for a 6.95 acre parcel on the south side of Tipton Station Road. It's just catty corner from the prior rezoning case. It's east of Newbert Springs Road intersection and on the east side of Sane Lane. The request is to rezone from agricultural to planned residential with a density of up to 4 dwelling units per acre. In terms of changing conditions, properties across Tipton Station Road from the subject property with direct access to West Governor John Sevier Highway and with the traditional neighborhood place type designation have been approved for rezonings and planned developments of residential subdivisions. For the residential rezonings that have occurred there recently, the Knox County Commission has conditioned exclusive access onto West Governor John Sevier Highway in order to preserve rural character and maintain traffic safety to the south where the subject property lies. Here in the comprehensive plan map, you can see the traditional neighborhood designation that I mentioned to the north. That TN designation is intended for a mix of housing ranging from single family up to small multifamily buildings in a walkable block pattern. The subject property is at the edge of a large area of the rural conservation place type, which differs from the TN to the north. RC is intended to conserve forested areas, ridges, wetlands, and other significant natural areas by clustering development and minimizing land disturbance. The RC place type permits consideration of planned residential up to 5 dwelling units per acre. In the aerial map, you can see that this RC area is comprised of large agricultural and rural residential lots among forests, farmland, and stream beds that have remained unchanged for decades. The subject property is almost entirely comprised of mature forest. Staff are recommending approval of the PR zone up to 4 dwelling units per acre because it's consistent with the comprehensive plan and the property's location in the planned growth area of the growth policy plan with 3 conditions. The residential density could be a visual outlier along this rural section of Tipton Station Road. While there is new PR development to the north, it is prohibited from accessing Tipton Station Road, and landscape buffering is required along that street face. That being the case, staff recommend condition number 1, which is that at least 50% of the subject property be left as undisturbed natural open space to preserve some of the rural character and scenic assets of the area in a manner that is consistent with the intent of the RC place type. The maximum density possible with the requested rezoning on this almost 7 acre lot is 27 units, which could produce an estimated addition of 303 vehicle trips per day. The safest way to access Tipton Station Road from the subject property is via Sane Lane to avoid the hazard of multiple access points in close proximity on that major collector street. So that's the basis for the second condition, that access to Tipton Station Road be made exclusively via Sane Lane. However, Sane Lane is an unstriped local street with 10 to 16 feet of pavement width. The third recommended condition is to improve Sane Lane in accordance with the requirements by Knox County Engineering and Public Works to address transportation capacity that's commensurate with future development. A new sidewalk on Sane Lane and road widening may be required depending on the extent of future proposed residences. Residents have expressed concern about site distance from Sane Lane onto Tipton Station Road, and county engineering staff verified in the field that the minimum site distance of 400 feet is being met in both directions at that location. I'm happy to answer any questions.
I do have a quick question too on the, so have you talked to the applicant about the 50% requirement? Are they aware of it or comfortable with it?
They are aware of it. I have not heard back on their feelings about it.
And I didn't see a hillside calculation in there. Is it pretty flat or?
It is. There is a potential sinkhole. There's a closed contour near Sand Lane towards the rear. And that was another reason why PR seemed like an appropriate consideration to allow for that clustering. But no, there's no hillside protection.
Very good. Thank you.
I think along those same lines, I was just curious you said this is rural conservation, right? Is there any like guidance around the percentage, or I know it's about clustering and preserving rural character, but do we have any written guidance around what that looks like in terms of like percentage of conservation setback? I guess I'm just curious, but like 50, 40, 60, how do we think about that?
In terms of percentage, that is written in the comp plan. In the place type intent description, it describes 50 to 70% of rural conservation areas being conserved. So this was aligning with that.
Got it. Thank you.
Thank you, Jesse. Okay, we're going to move on to the next three items. The lead planner is Kelsey, and we will start off with number 9.
All right, this is a request to rezone an approximately 18-acre property located on Nora Road, south of I-640 from RN1 single-family residential neighborhood to RN5 general residential neighborhood. The request in referring to subject property is actually 3 contiguous parcels next to each other. The hillside protection overlay would be retained, but an amendment to the East City sector plan and the one-year plan is required for the rezoning to change the land use classification from other open space to MDR medium density residential. The subject property is located on a section of Nora Road that is bisected by the railroad tracks and I-640. Development in this area has not significantly changed since the 1990s and consists of 3 single-family dwellings to the west and forested undeveloped slopes to the east. The subject properties other open space designation in the city's one-year plan and East City sector plan is not the result of an error. The OS land use class is intended for areas possessing either topographical or environmental features that would limit intensive development. The subject property is part of Sharps Ridge, a significant ridgeline with slopes primarily above the 40% range. Looking at the map, the property appears to be near other medium-density residential areas concentrated along Greenway Drive to the north and Valley View Drive to the south, both of which are major collector streets. However, when traveled by vehicle, the subject property is isolated from these residential developments due to the presence of the railroad tracks and the I-640 overpass to the north and the steep mountain ridge to the south. Zoning along this section of Nora Road primarily consists of RN1 single-family residential neighborhood. Similarly, though there are medium-density residential zoning districts such as RN3, RN5, and RN6, abutting the subject property, these properties are on the other side of the ridge and access from Valley View Drive, a major collector street with nearby access to community amenities and transit routes. The subject property is accessed off of Nora Road, a local street. This section of Nora Road has pavement widths between 10 to 18 feet and is isolated from nearby residential and non-residential development. Shown on the slide are views from Nora Road looking south towards the subject properties, as well as looking to the east and the north from the subject properties' driveways. Staff recommendation is to deny the medium-density residential land use classification because the subject property does not meet the location criteria for the land use class. The subject property is not near community activity centers such as schools, parks, or community centers, and the North Broadway commercial corridor is a mile to the northwest, but not accessible via sidewalks or public transit. This map shows the CAT bus route in green with bus stops in black and white icons and existing sidewalks in bright red, not to be confused with the orangish shade of the I-640 interstate. The nearest CAT bus stop is 1 mile northwest off of North Broadway, with no sidewalks available between the bus stop and the subject property. And there are not any sidewalk installations planned along Nora Road or Greenway Drive to connect to the commercial areas on North Broadway or Tazewell Pike. The proposed rezoning is not consistent with development policies 9.2 and 6.3, which encourage development practices in areas with the fewest environmental constraints and development practices that respect and fit the natural landscape. This site is severely constrained by slopes and is almost entirely forested, with the exception of an undeveloped power line maintenance road that runs through the subject property in a 150-foot wide easement. The rezoning is also inconsistent with Development Policy 4.5 to avoid creating small, isolated pockets of residential development. As previously mentioned, this section of Nora Road is secluded from nearby residential and non-residential development due to its steep topography and its location near I-640. This area is also devoid of medium-density development. For these reasons, staff recommendation is to deny the requested medium-density residential land use classification and RN5 general residential neighborhood zoning districts. The hillside protection overlays would be retained. One item we did want to note is that the applicant brought to our attention the possible discrepancies with the amount of acreage each parcel has. These properties do not have a recorded survey, so our estimation is based on what information and records are available through KGIS. But regardless, does not impact staff's recommendation. Happy to answer any questions.
So I do have a question. I'm somewhat familiar with this parcel. I looked at it several years ago, and it does have some steep areas for sure, hillside, ridge top. But does it not have an area? I'm looking at this topo here. Does it not have like one certain area that's pretty flat or flatter in there?
I believe the area you're referring to is probably the area shaded in green on the largest property.
Yeah.
That seems like it was previously disturbed partially due to the power line road that was cleared in order to allow for the power lines, and is also largely within that 150-foot easement.
So kind of an existing condition or previously graded. Mm-hmm. So Nora Road, I think there's a church back there, if it reminds me, or if I remember properly, but has the applicant expressed any willingness to widen that road or make the infrastructure from that perspective better, or do you know?
I'll have to let the applicant speak to that, but I do know there is a church on the other side, on Nora Road, but on the other side of the overpass.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. It's kind of interesting because I know we all want affordable housing and need affordable housing, and you kind of look at it from 10,000 feet, and it's between an interstate and RN6. You know, so it's well, I'm sure we'll have some good discussion on Thursday. Any other questions?
Yeah, just maybe thinking out loud a little bit too. Thinking about the last bullet point, avoid creating small isolated pockets of residential development. And I understand that in some contexts. I think back to the last case we discussed too, where we were effectively trying to create an isolated pocket of residential development to preserve conservation area around it in a rural conservation setting. And I know this is a different setting, so maybe it's not a great parallel, but and maybe medium density is, a step too far is inappropriate, but I do think about like a place like this, if there is a buildable area that could have consolidated development, how that might be able to complement and preserve some of the surrounding area too. So yeah, I think it'll be a good conversation.
Yeah, and not deliberating by any means here, but no, I just, the comment, I mean, it's in the urban growth boundary too, so it's not, but we'll talk about that on Thursday, but thank you.
Quick question. I'm sorry if this was covered. What was RP1 zoning?
RP1 was the city's planned residential zone that they had prior to 2019.
Okay.
And so that's what a lot of the medium density and high density residential zoning you see on the other side of the ridge.
Okay. So does that indicate that what's proposed might have been allowed under that zone?
I'll let him-
Commissioner, I'm not sure that we can answer that question because the RP zones were very similar to the county's planned residential zone, so they would have had to make a proposal, and it would have had to gone before this body. One, you have to confirm what density you want in the plan itself. Okay, great. We will move on to the next one, number 13.
Okay. This is a request to rezone a roughly 1.1 acre property located south of Mitchell Street and north of I-40 from IG General Industrial to IH Heavy Industrial. Development trends in the surrounding area have remained stable, consisting of a mix of residential, commercial, wholesaling, and industrial uses. This area between the railroad tracks to the north and I-40 to the south predominantly consists of IG zoning, RN4 general residential neighborhood zoning, and institutional zoning. Commercial zoning, such as highway commercial and general commercial, is concentrated to the east along North Cherry Street. The subject property is designated HI, heavy industrial, in the city's one-year plan and Central City Sector Plan, which allows consideration of the requested IH zoning district. The primary difference between the requested IH zoning district and the existing IG zoning district is that IH allows heavy industrial activities, whereas IG does not. General industrial activities must be conducted wholly within an enclosed building. Heavy industrial activities, however, are permitted to have outdoor storage areas and related outdoor activities and include uses that may produce noise, vibrations, illumination, or particulate that is perceptible to adjacent land users. Staff recommendation is to deny the heavy industrial zoning district because it is inconsistent with the Knoxville, Knox County General Plan. The subject property is in an area consisting of a wide mix of uses of varying intensities within an established residential neighborhood. The IH district at this location would permit more intensive, potentially noxious uses than are currently allowed in the surrounding area. This is inconsistent with the General Plan's Development Policy 11.3 to discourage environmental nuisances in the vicinity of residential development, including noxious industrial uses, offensive odors, vibrations, dust, or glare from nearby or distant uses. The IH district at this location would allow uses that could produce negative external impacts to residences in the immediate and broader surrounding area, including the Bell Morris neighborhood to the north and the Park Ridge neighborhood to the south. Introducing the IH zoning district to this area could also serve as a catalyst for future IH rezonings, which would be inappropriate here due to the close proximity of residential uses. Though IG zoning is not ideal in regards to compatibility with residential uses, it would limit uses on the site to primarily indoor industrial activities. Rezoning should be based on the entire range of uses allowed within a zone to ensure compatibility with development brought forth in the future. As previously mentioned, the IH district allows uses that are more intensive and may cause adverse impacts for surrounding properties. For some background and context on this rezoning request, the current tenant on this site has been operating as a grease processing facility since 2017 with outdoor storage. Numerous complaints from surrounding businesses and residences have been received by the Knox County Environmental Health Division and the City of Knoxville Plan Review and Inspections Department due to odor emanating from its operations and general concerns with the outdoor storage of processing materials. This context is relevant to the rezoning request as it would permit operations to continue as is at this location. It should be noted that a grease processing facility is a permitted use in the current IG zoning district when conducted within a fully enclosed building. There are 2 other grease processing facilities in the area which operate in fully enclosed buildings and have not received complaints from the Knox County Environmental Health Division or the City of Knoxville's Plan Review and Inspections Department to date. I'm happy to answer any questions.
I don't know if it's a question, I guess. Excuse me, because this one is kind of intertwined because we have to look at it as a body as what the zoning is, just what you had said, Kelsey. Of what else can happen in that zone if we were to zone it to the heavy industrial. So it's interesting. It's almost like the person who's operating a business there is just trying to do that so they can still keep operating outside. I guess that's probably the goal that they're trying to do, which I'm not a big fan of. They're trying to put a square peg in a round hole to stop getting notice of violations. It's what it kind of looks like to me. But yeah, we have to just look at the zoning. Is it appropriate to have the heavy industrial right there? And I think you did a nice job. Thank you.
Okay, seeing no other questions, go to agenda item number 32.
Right. So this is a request to rezone a roughly 1.5 acre property located on the east side of George Light Road, east of Pellissippi Parkway, from RA low density residential to planned residential with up to 6 dwelling units an acre. The technology overlay would be retained. Development trends in the surrounding area have been primarily residential. The abutting subdivision finished construction in 2018, and 2 townhouse subdivisions are currently under construction within a third of a mile. The subject property is accessed off of a section of George Light Road, which is shown in red, that is anticipated to be widened to 20 feet by summer 2026. The road widening was a condition of another rezoning that occurred across the street. Rezoning trends in the area have been residential, with 3 rezonings from agricultural to planned residential from up to 3.5 to 5 dwelling units an acre, and 1 to RA low-density residential since 2007. It should be noted, though, that these properties were originally zoned for agricultural uses and then transitioned to low-density residential zoning, whereas the subject property is already zoned for low-density residential development. The subject property has a suburban residential place type on the future land use map, and the PR zone with up to 6 dwelling units an acre is partially related to the SR place type, whereas the existing RA zone is directly related. The PR zone is intended for large acreage sites with environmental constraints to allow for clustered development and requires a 35-foot peripheral boundary, which can create development constraints for smaller lots. The existing RA zone on the site supports residential development that would be compatible with the character of the area at a similar density. With the existing and under construction development. The subject property is also just north of the intersection of Pellissippi Parkway and George Light Road, which also funnels vehicular traffic from Rather Road to the east. This intersection was identified in the 2019 Hardin Valley Mobility Plan as an area in need of access control improvements due to high traffic volumes and vehicular crash rates. Though the anticipated road widening of George Light Road is notable, it does not address the safety concerns with the Pellissippi Parkway intersection to the south, which does not support further increasing residential density. For these reasons, staff recommendation is to deny the PR zone with up to 6 dwelling units an acre. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Kelsey. Now we will switch over to Whitney for agenda item number 45.
Okay, so this concept and development plan is the phase 3 of Hayden Farms subdivision on in Hardin Valley off of Sam Lee Road. It's for 42 single-family lots on 47 acres, density of 0.89 dwelling units an acre. The zoning on the property is PR up to 3 dwelling units an acre. So this plan will connect into the existing subdivision on Barkley Knoll Lane. The subdivision is currently built out, even though it's not shown in this aerial. The existing subdivision has 2 access points onto Samway Road, a collector road. The request is for 42 single-family lots. A stub out was provided with the original subdivision here on Barkley Knoll. These roads will have a reduced pavement width from 26 feet to 22 feet because of the steep slopes on the property. And there will be sidewalks along one side of each road. This request does have 6 variances for both horizontal and vertical curves because of the topography on the property. The recommended land disturbance from the slope analysis is 13.07 acres. The grading plan is showing 16.1 acres will be disturbed. So there is one condition to disturb no more than the slope analysis recommendation of 13.07 acres or to reforest. There's another condition on the property or on the plan. Condition 5 is to obtain a letter of map revision for the FEMA to update the flood zones and base elevations on the property to accommodate the fill in the floodplain or putting the floodplain below the no fill line in common area. So, and this is for lots 25 through 42. So this red line that comes through here is the no fill line. These lots back up to Beaver Creek here. This is just to make it clear that no development can occur on these lots. There's another condition to provide a stream determination study to Knox County Engineering and Public Works during the design plan phase. There's a potential blue line stream over here. And this plan doesn't show the required stream buffers, so that study will have to be done to determine whether or not stream buffers need to be applied, and potentially lots would be consolidated or removed. Are there any other questions? The recommendation is to approve.
Yeah, just another, along the same lines what I was saying earlier, have you talked to the applicant about potentially putting the flood zone in the common area?
We've told them that would be a condition since they didn't show it on the plan. It's conditioned.
But they, I mean, were they okay with it, or do you know? And the only reason I'm asking, I just didn't know if it messed up their rear setbacks. Same stuff we've talked about in the past of when you put a lot line back there, does that conflict with their building envelope in the rear setback? So.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure.
Yeah. Okay, just didn't know if you'd had that conversation or not. Thank you.
Engineering had the conversation with them and they refused to do it. We did tell them we would work with them on the limits of the common area where their lots would be deep enough for their building footprint. But basically, they're going to use up all the usable property on those lots with the fill they'll place to build the homes. So we ran into this issue in the past where the landowner buys that lot and thinks they have usable property and they do not because it's all been used up for the development.
But but Engineering Public Works will pick that up in your review because they'll have to come to you with all the fill.
Yes. Oh, yes. We'll review that whenever they come in for a design plan review.
Very good. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Whitney. Now we will circle back to agenda item number 48, which is a concept development plan. And Mike will walk you through it.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, I was late coming in earlier. So this is a proposal for a shopping center that mainly includes a grocery store and a fuel station and 2 outlots. So the 2 outlots that are shown in orange will be brought back at a future date. And we're just reviewing what is in blue, which is the grocery store, and the purple area, which is the fuel station. Those 2 go hand in hand. They're under the same ownership. So that's really the development plan part of it. Originally, when this was submitted, it did not include a concept plan, but the road that's on the north side of this site plan, but really plan east, north side of this image in gray, has been requested to be a public road because it connects 2 public roads. It connects Shad Road to a new neighborhood street to the south. So the grocery store is a 50,000 square foot grocery. The fuel station has 8 fuel pumps or 16 dispensers and a 1,600 square foot convenience center, convenience store. And as I mentioned, the 2 outlots. I'm going to give a really brief overview of the background of this project and surrounding area, but I'm not going to belabor it too much. If you have questions about the history of the zoning, just let me know. So this property was rezoned to planned commercial and planned residential back in 2006. What you see on the screen highlighted in red in the image is the area where the planned commercial was approved with the Shod Road kind of cutting straight through it. So back in 2006, everybody knew that this road was coming, but obviously it wasn't there yet, and planned commercial and other commercial development wasn't wanted yet until the road is done. So there was a condition of the planned commercial that no commercial development be submitted to the Planning Commission for approval until that road is complete or substantially complete, which it is now. So that's why it's coming for us. So the bottom part of this property, just to the south, which is what their road's going to connect to, was also zone planned commercial at the time. Back in 2008, adjacent property to the east was rezoned similarly to planned commercial, and then planned residential to 5 dwelling units in the back. Same condition, no development until the Shod Road is complete. Then in 2017, the area that was zoned planned commercial on that property flipped back to planned residential at 5 dwelling units per acre, and then kind of this current day zoning. So you can see planned residential. It was developed out for single family housing to the east. PR zoning to the south, which was part of this property, has been approved and is being developed for 41 units. And a Weigel's with car wash has already been approved in the planned commercial on the north side of Shod Road, again, part of the same property. This was approved last year. It has not officially started construction yet, but imagine it'll be before long. I noticed some other developments in the area that have either been approved and not completed yet, or just under construction. I'm not going to go into those unless you have questions. So I overlaid both the proposed property with the Weigel's across the street and the townhouses to the south. Mainly the townhouse to the south, just so you can see how this road alignment works. So this is their new road coming in. They're going to connect to the new neighborhood street. This new neighborhood street goes from Bakertown over to the Low Betty Landing subdivision, so it connects there. So we'll have actually some connectivity in this area once this is complete, if approved as and built as we anticipate. Future land use for the property is it's split. It's corridor mixed use, predominantly on the property on the north side, and suburban residential on the back side, south side of the property. The building itself technically goes into the suburban residential area, and as well as their access or their service driveway. It doesn't really impact what they can do. The comprehensive plan kind of recognizes that there's going to be some issues between the new land use plan and what the current zoning is. The property is zoned planned commercial, and when we have these problems, we try to make the project fit the land use as best as possible. Here it's a little bit challenging. They are providing a landscape screen or more landscape screening along that south property line than they would otherwise be required to. And I'll kind of get into that in a moment as well. Road improvements is a big one. So this deals with policies 4.2 and policy 11 of the comprehensive plan to provide pedestrian and vehicular connectivity with new development. I'm sorry, that's my next slide. But this one is providing public improvements as with new development. I'm not going to go over every single detail of this because there's quite a few elements to it, but main things are they're going to be required to widen Bakertown Road, which is on the west side of the property, from Shod Road back to the railroad, two-lane travel lanes, shoulders, curbs, and a sidewalk on the east side of the road. They're going to shift a median cut on Shad Road to line with their new road on the east side of their property. There'll be new turn lanes and extended turn lanes, as well as they're going to participate in the installation of the traffic signal. Connectivity, this is what 4.2 and policy 11 I was just mentioning, dealing with connectivity. Obviously the new road, as I had mentioned, that will connect, but also they'll be installing some sidewalks. As I just mentioned, on Bakertown Road, there'll be a new sidewalk installed. There'll be a new sidewalk on their internal road that will connect to the sidewalks within the subdivisions. And then there'll be a sidewalk that's internal to their project, at least through the main spine of it. And then as future development comes in, there'll be more opportunities for internal pedestrian connections. The Shad Road sidewalk is already installed. They'll still just modify it as they need to with their curb cuts. So landscape screening is a big, and also lighting. How this project, it's going to be surrounded by residential. There is obviously a residential project to the east that is recently constructed, many more houses. Project to the south, the townhouses are a little bit further away, so they're not right up against their project, but there is still that concern. And then to the west on Bakertown Road, more older, established, larger lot residences are there. So they're on the south side of this image, this would be west side in reality. That's where the larger lots are, larger lot residential. The project itself is set back a bit. They do have detention ponds on the west side of the property, some landscaping. So the majority of their things that they're going to deal with is probably traffic on Bakertown than anything. There's not really much this project outside of that is going to be imposing on them. Obviously, it's still going to be a large project next to them. To the east, in the north end on this site, they're proposing a type A landscape screening, which the type that they're proposing is this year, 2 offset rows of evergreen trees with an evergreen hedge that is about 6 feet tall. If you peruse through the comments on this project, screening is a major concern. Traffic obviously is too. They've had some back and forth conversations with the developer on what their preference is. Developer is, to my knowledge, this is their proposal. This is what we have so far. I think the neighborhood is interested in a fence versus some shrubbery, so you might hear that, which would be potentially a 1-to-1 swap. Instead of the shrubs, solid fence is what their request might be. Just be prepared for that. That would be probably on the inside, so on the Walmart side of their tree line. They also had some questions of whether or not the types of trees that they're proposing are appropriate. I'm not the one to ask, I guess, whether they're appropriate or not. They are evergreen trees. They might have different suggestions on types of trees to install. The south side of the property, so image east, I haven't heard much comment on that one in regard, or to any extent. Obviously, the neighborhood that is developed is most concerned at this point. The subdivision to the south has not been developed, and that developer, I'm not sure if they had any concerns with the landscape screening. I haven't personally heard anything. Just want to also note that along the gas station, there's a type C landscape screening, so there'll be some landscaping along that frontage of the property, as well as landscaping within the parking lot that is required as part of the planned commercial zoning. Before I put a note in here about approving the request for variance, so I wouldn't forget to mention the variance that is requested. See if I can go back to this image. It might be the easiest. So their internal road is on the east side of the property. The neighborhood to the east has a road that's fairly close to theirs that connects to Shad Road. The variance is a intersection separation variance from 400 feet to 209 feet. And I don't want to speak for engineering, but we feel that this is a safe condition based on what the applicant our engineer has presented for justification. This is a separated 4-lane road, so left turns out of the neighborhood shouldn't be happening. So that helps with conflicts. U-turns for the neighborhood will still happen. They never had direct access into their subdivision from that road, from their road is shod. So I think moving this a little bit further away from their entrance actually will help their condition. So when they do a U-turn to enter in, they're actually going a little bit further and able to get over to the right lane and actually enter versus just shooting straight across 2 lanes. So that was the variance. Otherwise, we're recommending approval of the concept plan, subject to 9 conditions, in the development plan subject to 8, and some of the noted conditions are implementing the road improvements, connecting Road A to Honey Nectar Way, which is the road in the neighborhood to the south. And I didn't touch on this too much, but site lighting condition, and I've used this on some other commercial projects recently. All fixtures be full cutoff. The light source be installed parallel to the ground, so they're not pointing. It's kind of defeating the purpose of full cutoff if they put them at an angle. Within 100 feet of the south and east property line, all fixtures with height over 15 feet must provide shields oriented towards the adjacent residential uses, and that's really to try to hide, again, that the light source from the residences, which is going to be the biggest nuisance. Landscape screening to the south and east boundary be installed in the first growing season after the building permits are issued to try to get those established and installed. Anybody have any questions?
So, sorry if I missed this earlier, Mike. Is there any sort of view on the out parcels maybe being more visually akin to like the mixed-use town center like zoning that I think was referenced earlier with this? Or am I getting confused?
Corridor mixed use?
Yes, yeah.
Well, so the current planned commercial zoning, it really doesn't allow residential mixed use, for instance.
Right.
It does allow a variety of non-residential uses. I don't know. They don't have any specific plans for those yet, so I imagine that those will be coming in the future. I don't have any, other than that those all parcels do not, per the conditions of approval, cannot access Shod Road and Bakertown Road. With the individual driveways, they must come in from the internal driveway system, but that's it.
Okay, thanks.
I do have a couple questions, Mike. Clarifications too. So the plan that we're looking at now, the dark gray, the new road that's coming across there, did you say that was going to be a public road
Yes.
connecting to where the townhomes or whatever is developed behind it? Back there? Yeah. Okay. And then Low Betty Landing is on the plan. Well, now we're on the right.
Yeah, on the east.
Now
Technically,
it's
it's
on
on
the
the east side, yeah.
All right. Do you know how much area is between, say, the asphalt or the curb line right there and the property line where that Class A
Yeah.
buffer we were talking about
I
is?
measured this with a neighbor yesterday. It's 46 feet. Either it's from the curb line or from the right-of-way line to their property line,
Okay.
which the curb and the property line are pretty close together, so.
Yeah, and, certainly there's been a tremendous amount of comments from the Low Betty Landing people. They're the most affected of all of them, which I totally get. But honestly, I think you've done a really nice job of, making sure that they're protected. We can talk about a fence or adding a fence or swapping a fence or having fence and landscaping on Thursday, but I've seen a lot of commercial developments, but that's what I like about planned commercial at this stage is it has an extra layer of review, that allows a lot of this type of thing to happen. I thought at one point I saw a photometrics plan in there. Am I overlooking it now?
There is in the packet. Yeah.
Okay. Do we know how much light's leaving the site over there? I like your 15 feet and then shielded and did it?
I'm pretty sure it's pretty much shows down to 0 on with the landscaping
Yeah.
installed, but that's going to be at mature.
It's interesting to me that they would want to
type.
swap all that landscaping for a fence, because.
No, so what the type A requires is trees planted in 2 rows, 16 feet on center apart, and either a fence, wall, berm,
Gotcha.
and or a large or tall hedge of 6 feet tall. So all those other options are going to be like in that 6 foot range. So a berm of 6 feet tall, hedge 6 feet,
Gotcha.
fence. And then there's a different option in type A, which is it's all just evergreen trees, but they're planted closer together without the fence and all that. So they're
Yeah, because they had some of the comments I read anyway. They were talking about, of course, light pollution and noise pollution and that type of thing. But if you get a large enough thicker landscape type buffer there, it'll certainly help mitigate the noise and the light. But where the main building is located is away. It's not backing right up to them. So I like the plan. I think it's a good plan, really. So just. Any other thoughts or questions?
Okay, we have another agenda item, number 56. It's another business item, and Michelle will walk you through that quickly.
Yes. Yeah, because they were going for this option instead of that.
Seems to be taking a minute to connect, so I'm not sure what's going on. Here we go. It's showing my home screen. Okay, there we go. Took a minute. Okay, so thanks. So this is take 2 on the public notice newspaper advertisement. As you guys know, a recent change to state law updated the public notice requirement for zoning ordinance amendments. And as a refresher, that terminology refers to text amendments of the zoning ordinance itself and zoning map amendments or rezonings, as you all know them. The law changed public notice standard from 15 days to 21 days prior to the scheduled hearing date. And earlier in February of this year, we proposed an amendment to the administrative rules and procedures that proposed to change the rather generic text in Article 1, Section 1 from 15 days to 21 days. The admin rules had a different stipulation of 30 days for plan amendments, but no other case types were differentiated. Therefore, the 21 days became effective for all case types other than plan amendments, which was not our intent. So the proposed amendments make a clearer distinction between the different case types and their public notice requirements. As you can see from looking at the slides here, it led to 3 different public notice requirements. The sections broken into the subsections that you see here for ease of reference. So just real quick to go over those. For zoning amendments, of course, it's 21 days per that state law. For general plan, it's 30 days, which remains unchanged. And then all other case types are going to revert back to that 15 days that they were prior to the administrative rules and procedures. And that's now going to be what the administrative rules sort of stipulate for each one of those case types. And I'm happy to answer questions.
Okay, thank you, Michelle. I'll turn myself off. I have a quick announcement or some information I want to share with you all. Almost 70 years ago, this body was established. So on April 13th, 1956, the City Council and County Commission passed a resolution to create the Planning Commission and our agency. And I just wanted to share that with you because it's a significant milestone. 70 years is a long time. And I think over the course of the next year, we'll be probably sharing some information out about what that history looks like. But again, just wanted to share that with you all.
Very good. Thank you for that, and we will be adjourned. Thank you.